Well, hello there, my fellow rushers. How are you doing today? King Rex here, and today we're gonna be making a short review on Kingdom Rush Alliance. Now, initially, I wasn't even planning to make a video on it. Instead, what I was gonna do is post the review on Steam, because I already have over 100 hours in this game, but since we recently reached 2,000 subscribers, to which I'm very thankful, I decided why not make this into a video. Now, this is not the official 2000 subscriber special. I will be making one later down the line because I want to showcase you something really cool, but that's gonna be for next time. So now, let's talk about Alliance and whether or not it's a good game, because a lot of people have mixed opinions on it. So I'm gonna give you my personal views of the game and how I see it. First of all, let's talk about the positives, and then we're gonna discuss the also dreadful negatives. Alright, the first positive is pretty self-explanatory, the animations. If there's something Ironhide never fails at, it's the animations. I'm never gonna get bored of watching Kingdom Rush. Like, it gets better and better in terms of visuals every time they make a new game. Like, sure, Vengeance, people hated it, but you can't say that the art style is bad, nor the animations. The music is surprisingly good in this game. Like, compared to the other Kingdom Rush games, Alliance has one of the most incredible soundtracks. I mean, it doesn't quite rival the one in Frontiers, but it's almost there. So music, pretty good. Art style, again, very solid. No complaints there. The wave composition is, for the most part, good. I don't think it's like great. Like, it definitely has some places where it could improve, especially on Heroic and Irons, but we're gonna get to those later. And yeah, honestly, the wave composition is decent. It's not great, but hey, it's not Vengeance, so yay. And last but certainly not the least, the balancing between towers and heroes. Honestly, compared to what it used to be in Vengeance, I think it's a massive W. Most of the towers are pretty well balanced between each other, the heroes are pretty versatile, they have a lot of variety, and honestly, some people say the heroes are a bit underwhelming, which I don't really see why. Like, sure, there are a couple of heroes here and there that might be a little bit too OP, but still, this is Kingdom Rush, so we're always gonna have one or two of those every once in a while. It's just inevitable. And yeah, other than that, those are all the positives I have to say about Alliance. And now, unfortunately, we have to talk about the negatives. Starting off with the difficulty. The difficulty in this game is pretty bad, I'm not gonna lie. At least the scaling part. Because on normal difficulty, it's alright. Like, a little bit too easy in my opinion, but it's fine. Veteran is average, it's like 20% increase, which is how most other Kingdom Rush games have it. But the impossible difficulty, it just doesn't feel as hard as it should be. Because it only increases the HP by an additional 10%, and it also gives the enemies 10% bonus movement speed across the board, which you might be thinking is better than Vengeance, because Vengeance only increased the HP, so now that we're getting an extra 10% movement speed, it should make a difference, but in reality, I barely even noticed it. Like, deadass, I didn't even know that the enemies got bonus movement speed until I looked deeper into it. Like, that's how unnoticeable this was. And since we're on the topic of difficulty, the boss fights. Honestly, I was expecting more from the boss fights, because they're just kind of underwhelming, not gonna lie. Like, all of them kinda melt. Like, look at this. You're calling this a boss? Really? This is Nazru 2.0? Like, bruh, you could have done so much more with them. I don't know, I just feel like the bosses could have been 10 times better if they had the proper stats. And probably a little bit better way of coming up with them. Okay, a minor complaint that I have to say is the power spikes. Power spike means how difficult does each area get compared to the other. The first area is, well, kinda simple. It's not that difficult at all. I mean, you saw the boss from the previous clip, so yeah, if you're struggling to that, then you probably shouldn't play Kingdom Rush. Then, the second area, it feels alright, but something about it just doesn't hit right. Like, maybe like 40% of it is somewhat hard, but the other 60% are just too easy. I feel like maybe the wave composition should have been sped up a bit. Perhaps there should have been a little bit more enemy spam. Maybe the base movement speed should have been increased. I'm not sure what it is about it, but the second area just feels a bit lacking in some places. The third area is really hard, which is a good thing. We love ourselves some difficult Kingdom Rush, but it's too noticeable. Like when you go from level 11 to level, let's say, to 12, 13, and so on, like the game becomes super hard, which I don't really like. I don't like sudden power spikes like that. If you're gonna make a power spike, then make it more consistent, you know? I don't know. I just feel like the second area should have been more similar to the third area, but that's about it. Now let's move on to the upgrade system. Honestly, it's not that great. It's similar to Vengeance, which is already a massive L. And it does have a couple RNG upgrades here and there, which, I mean, sure, you could say, oh, it's alright if we have like 1 or 2 upgrades, but as someone who prefers consistency, I have to point this out. Favorite Customer is probably one of the worst abilities ever made. 25% chance to get an ability of a tower discounted by 60%. 60%. That can make so much of a difference, especially on the start, where you're building up your defenses. Like, it's so inconsistent. I don't know why they even decided that it was a good idea. If it was something more like every 5th or 6th time you upgrade a tower, it gets the discount, sure. I can see it being somewhat alright. But making it RNG like that? That's a big no-no. And then the heroes have not 1 but 2 RNG abilities. One of them gives them 20% chance to critically strike, the other one gives them 20% chance to dodge. Honestly, not a big fan of those, could have been something better. And I just must point out the last 2 upgrades. But before that, if you don't know how the upgrade system is, well, allow me to explain it real quick. You have the first 3, which is for the towers, the second one is for heroes, third one is reinforcements, and the fourth one is kind of unique, because it just gives you a bunch of different upgrades that make it so that depending on how many Linearian or Dark Army towers and heroes you use, you get different bonuses. But these two just don't really synergize, man. Like, okay, the teleport is one thing. Sure, I like it. I like teleporting enemies away. But the burning circle on top of that just doesn't feel right. Because the way it's gonna work is, the enemy is gonna try to step into the ring, it's gonna get teleported away. That's already a waste. But then when imagine if it's a faster enemy. If it's a faster enemy, he's gonna go in, get touched by the circle a bit, and then instantly teleported back. Which means that you get less value out of it. And the circle doesn't last for very long. It just disappears after a while, which, honestly, if the teleport was replaced with a stun, root, or at the very least a slow, these two would synergize incredibly well. But because of the teleport, I feel like these two just don't really mix well together. It's more of a personal critique, so maybe it's not as bad as I think, but hey, it is what it is. And I want to point out something. Reinforcements? Why? Why you gotta make us choose between 2 different reinforcements? You already know there's gonna be balance issues with it. And this might be just a personal hot take, but I would say linear reinforcements are always superior to the Shadow Archers. Medium armor, more HP, they can reflect 20% of the damage they take back, and the Paragon is, well, a Giga Chad, so why would you use the virgin-ass Shadow Archers when you can go for the Chad Linearian reinforcements? But yeah, that's all I have to say about the upgrade system. And last but certainly not the least, the biggest L this game has is its progression system. It's Vengeance all over again, meaning that it doesn't really matter how well you do on a campaign stage. You can literally win with no lives lost or 1 life remaining, and you're still gonna receive every single reward. Like, why? Where's the good old mentality of you should try harder to receive a better reward type of deal? Similar to the first 3 Kingdom Rush games. I thought they took feedback from the negatives in Vengeance while they were making Alliance, but I'm not sure why they implemented this thing in particular. Perhaps it's to make casual players feel better about themselves when they perform poorly on a level. But then again, if you're gonna lock every single reward behind just the campaign, that opens up a big issue. Which is, you already know, Heroic and Irons. There is literally no reason to do the Heroic and Irons. Not because they're of poor quality, no. Most of them are pretty solid. Like, you have the easier ones in the first area, the well-paced ones in the second, and the really difficult ones in the third area, which are, you know, I approve of those. But unless you're achievement hunting, there's literally no reason to play them. Like, deadass. You just get the achievement and you never touch them again. And before you ask, no, it doesn't. The achievement is not locked behind the difficulty you play them on. You can literally speedrun them through casual and just say, I'm done with those. I'm never gonna touch them again. It's so stupid. Like, imagine how many things you could do with the heroic and irons. Maybe you unlock a new hero after you beat every heroic. Perhaps you unlock a new feature after you beat every iron challenge. You know, make them give something. Don't just leave them there as like, oh, an additional challenge for literally no reward. Because most people are not gonna bother. I myself am a veteran, so of course I'm gonna give them a try and judge them. But, you know, most casual players are probably gonna skip them, because what's the point of wasting your time when you're gonna get no reward that helps you progress through the run? That's why I preferred the first 3 Kingdom Rush games over any other, because you were actually encouraged to be the level with 3 stars, and if you were struggling on the next one, you could be the heroic and iron from earlier levels, get an extra star, get maybe 1 or 2 extra upgrades, and that's gonna make your next level easier. But no, I guess we don't have this feature no more, so that's a big L. If they're gonna make an additional Kingdom Rush game later down the line, I hope it has different progression system, because otherwise, why do you even bother making heroic and irons anymore, man? And yeah, honestly, that's all I have to say about Kingdom Rush Alliance. At the end of the day, is it worth it? I'd say it depends. Like, if you're a big Kingdom Rush fan and you want to give it a try, then by all means, go buy it. But if you're looking for an actually good Kingdom Rush game, I would say Alliance falls short a bit. But then again, you have to keep in mind, it is relatively fresh. It's gonna receive an update later this October, so perhaps the game is gonna shift. Maybe it's gonna move in the right direction. Perhaps it's gonna get worse. We don't know. As of right now, I'm not gonna give it a rating of from 1 to 10. Instead, I'm gonna place it, instead I'm gonna compare it to the other Kingdom Rush games. When it goes from the worst one to the best. The worst one has to be Vengeance. We can all agree on that. Vengeance is one of the worst Kingdom Rush game by a mile. Then I think I'm gonna place Origins. I'm sorry to all the Origins simps out there, or should I say fans. But then again, it's kind of hard to tell these days who's simping, who's fanboying over stuff. So yeah, Origins just had poor balance. I'm gonna be honest. The true damage was way too abundant. The post game was rushed, and the balancing is questionable. Alliance, I would say probably smack dab in the middle, because it's better than Vengeance in terms of pacing. It's better than Origins in terms of balance. However, it lacks the qualities that made Frontiers and the original Kingdom Rush so goated. It just lacks them, which is unfortunate, but hey, it is what it is. Perhaps one day Alliance is gonna be one of the best Kingdom Rush games. Maybe it's gonna get even worse, we don't know. But for now, that's all I have to say about Alliance. And with that out of the way, I think that's gonna do it for today's video. Thank you everybody so much for watching. I appreciate you for sticking around to the end. Subscribe if you want to see more of this content in the future, and while you're at it, drop a like on the video. It means a lot to me, and I will see you in the next video. Until it comes, that was King Rexy, over and out.